Thank you very much, Senator Durbin. Next up, Senator Lee.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ms. Bradish, I'd like to start with you. Back in 2010, the antitrust complaint filed by the Department of Justice against the proposed merger between Ticketmaster and Live Nation alleged, among other things, that Ticketmaster had at the time an 83% market share, with no competitor, no single competitor, having more than 4% of the market. It also alleged that Live Nation, for its part, was Ticketmaster's biggest customer and was the leading concert promoter at the time, of course. It also alleged that Live Nation had begun competing directly with Ticketmaster for ticketing services, rising over a very short period of time to 16% of the market share in just 2 months, kind of a meteoric rise. So with that in mind, why, in your view, did the Department of Justice settle what seems to be a strong case that appears to involve the elimination of head-to-head competition with a monopolist? And would you agree that what we have here is not a shortcoming necessarily of our antitrust laws, but error, perhaps gross negligence in enforcing them?
Well, I think that there are two elements to why the DOJ would take a consent decree rather than pursue a case in court. Obviously, a case in court involves risk, and the fact is that to pursue a vertical merger in court, and recent experience backs that up, is difficult. It's very difficult for DOJ to win a vertical merger case.
Post Dr. Miles?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes. So that it's hard, given the current state of the law, for DOJ to pursue a vertical merger case. So that will make them, in many cases, hesitant to do that.
Right.
The second issue, I think, that comes up here is the need for witnesses in a court case. And in a situation where there's a pervasive fear of the dominant firm, where venues and promoters and other independent rivals will potentially suffer consequences, and history since then has suggested that's the case, they would have to testify in court. And to get someone to take that risk is not an easy ask.
The point about Dr. Miles and Legion is interesting, although, if I'm not mistaken, they pitched this as a horizontal merger, didn't they? And didn't the complaint identify it as a horizontal, not a vertical?
Well, there's a horizontal component as well as a vertical component. The conduct remedy part of it clearly goes to the vertical part of the issue.
Now, the consent decree includes a divestiture and also prohibitions on tying the ticketing services and the concert promotion. You want to say anything about how those have worked in practice and why?
Well, obviously, the investigation that culminated in the 2020 modification to the consent decree showed that, in fact, this was repeatedly violated. The DOJ described 6 instances, but also pointed to a pervasive environment of fear of retaliation. And as a result, it shows that when a company has incentives to act in a particular way, a consent decree isn't necessarily going to stop them from doing that.
Right. Mr. Brochold, do you want to respond?
Yes, I absolutely acknowledge, Senator, that the Department of Justice alleged 6 issues in 2019, which led to our decision with them to extend the consent decree. We did not feel it made sense to be seen as defending the theories of retaliation or threats. It's not our business practice. It goes against our fundamental focus on alignment with the artist, the idea that we would ever put our interest ahead of theirs. So we were comfortable extending the consent decree. As she mentioned, there were several things that changed because we had different interpretations. And one of the things that we've done is in instances where venues are seeking to tying a ticketing and a concert agreement into an overall deal, we have eliminated those so that there can't be any instance where there's the perception of threats or retaliation associated with that bundling done at the venue's request. So we've simply eliminated that from our service set. along with the establishment of monitors to make sure that any venue employee or others could confidentially report any issues.
Is it accurate to say that at a minimum, that Live Nation at a minimum was a motivated and capable, potentially, if not likely, competitor?
I'm sorry,
At the time of the merger, is it accurate
No,
to say
no.
that at the time of the merger, Live Nation was an emerging, nascent competitor and likely a very capable potential competitor?
I would say, Senator, that Live Nation at the time was finding that it was very difficult to build its own ticketing system, that one of the driving motivations to the Ticketmaster merger was the feeling that it wasn't going to successfully build its own system, and it sought to find one that could more effectively serve its needs of selling tickets for fans.
Yeah, I'm out of time, but they had sold 6 million tickets, and they did rise to a pretty prominent position in the marketplace in 2 months. So that's not nothing. We'll get to that later. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you very much.